took a break, okay, and now it's back to work. God made a way, that's the only way it works. I'm gonna walk his way till they put me in the dirt. May your kingdom come as in heaven on this earth to me. Just now it occurred to me, hell gon' burn like third degree. If you know your history, Jesus paid that purse for me, and he took that curse from me. If you think that's perjury, boy, you better learn to read. Hey, me and my baby girl in on the court, call that double dutch. I've been walking with the Lord, can't be doing such and such. Wait, I took a minute, but now I'm back in it. If God isn't with it, I don't want to visit. I went independent, it's gotta repent it, they couldn't have fake. I just took a break, okay, and now it's back to work. God made a way, that's the only way it works. I'm gonna walk his way till they put me in the dirt. May your kingdom come as in heaven on this earth.
Welcome in, everybody, to the End Off the Bench podcast. My name is Jim Cross. You've seen the clip, Daniel. It is time to make them feel you. Daniel, man, opening weekend of college baseball, it absolutely met expectations. We're going to get into it later. But first, man, we got to do our interview. Ethan Conrad from Wake Forest, man. How you doing tonight?
Doing well. Thank you guys for having me on.
Absolutely. So, Ethan, I'm going to do an icebreaker with you before Daniel starts to get into your story. I was curious about something. I've never had some good baseball glasses. To be clear, I never played baseball, never had a reason to. And then Parker Bird hooked me up with these Soleros, and I ain't gonna lie, man, might be the flyest shades I ever had. But being that you play center field, what kind of shades you wearing?
Right now I'm wearing 100% that I got in the fall. But our equipment manager, Tony, just ordered some new Oakleys, which they're apparently really good in the sun. So I think those are coming in soon.
Yeah, I mean, when I see outfielders in college baseball, especially for elite schools, I feel like you've got to not only be able to protect your eyes, but you got to be able to look good. Like it's a must, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Daniel, I think of Seaver King last year, all that drip. I mean, the Wake Forest unis look awesome. You got to, think back to Tommy Hawk and the black and gold Jordan cleats. Like, it's a lot of options when you play for Wake.
I mean, you can't go wrong, but you definitely got to make sure like everything like meshes. Like you can have like different color scheme and some glasses, but like it has to flow right. It has to look right. And you got to be like the personality that can pull it off. I see some jabronis out there trying to pull off these shades, and like it's just pitchers can't do it. Pitchers can't do it, so they can.
Hair flow is the key. Hair flow is the key for them pitchers.
It's every position I think has their thing, but Ethan, we'll get into your thing here shortly with when we talk Wake Forest baseball and all that. But we got to get the backstory. You're a New York guy. Where exactly in New York are you from?
I'm from Saugerties, New York. It's a pretty big baseball town. We got a nice complex, Canton Field. So
nice. So if I was to visit there, what's the one thing you would say I need to do, experience, feel, touch, taste, see?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say definitely the complex is very nice. My high school baseball field's beautiful. There's a bunch of other fields there. And then I'd say probably the Catskill Mountains is about 10 minutes away. Go see the mountains. It's really nice.
Nice. So when you look back on it, obviously growing up, you have two schools of thought. You can be a Yankees fan or you can be a Mets fan. What camp do you lie in?
Definitely Yankees. Growing up, kind of my dad just always was a Yankees fan. So ever since I was a kid, I was a huge Yankees fan.
How does one become a Mets fan? I've always been curious of this. Like I can understand like how you become a Yankees fan. Like winning matters and players matter, but like how do you become a Mets fan? Like, do you even know?
I don't know. I mean, I got most of my friends back home are Yankees fans. I got one Mets fan. I don't know what he was thinking, but most of us are Yankees fans.
He was hedging his bets. He's like, man, they're so good right now. It's gotta be the Mets' turn at some point. If I'm a Mets fan now, then when it hits, I'll be ready. It's like all those Warriors fans, Jim, that were waiting for the day that the Warriors became dominant, and then all of a sudden they did, and now they cashed in. But
now the Mets are supposed to be pretty good. That battle in New York's gonna be legit.
Oh, for sure. There's some high payrolls, nothing out there compared to the Dodgers, but I mean, It'll be nice. It'll be nice. I wouldn't be disappointed to see Mets Yankees World Series again. That'd be pretty sweet. Um, but Ethan, talk to me a little bit about Marist. Obviously, you're a guy who ends up, being really good at the sport. You know that you can move on to the next level, but why did you choose Marist? What was up with that school? What made you feel that school where you were like, this is the place for me?
Yeah, so I mean, it all goes back to kind of like around 10th grade was kind of the year where I was, getting ready to kind of be seen by colleges. And that was obviously the COVID year for me. So that summer, all my tournaments that I was going to attend were kind of canceled. So I didn't end up going to any of those that summer, and I still hadn't been seen by anyone. And then my junior year summer was really the first time I got in front of schools. And it was pretty late at that time. I was playing with Northeast Pride. We went to a bunch of tournaments, Georgia, bunch of different tournaments, but it was pretty late. So the only schools that were really on me were Marist, Albany, Seton Hall a little bit, kind of Northeast, smaller schools. And honestly, it was the coach at the time, Chris Traz. He ran a tight ship. He had a good program with good players and a lot of wins. And I could just tell after meeting him that, it was going to be a good fit for me. So that's kind of why I made the decision to go there.
All right. I meant to ask, you grow up being a Yankees fan, like with all the great players that come from the Yankees, obviously, like you could throw them all in a hat and pick one out and go, that's my favorite player. And everyone would be like, oh, yeah, that's a great player. But like, who was your favorite player growing up?
I remember when I was a kid, it was always Mickey Mantle because I had this picture of him hanging in my room that was my dad's, and I would just always look at it every day, and I liked him a lot. But when I was growing up, I obviously liked to watch Jeter play and that team. And I was first baseman, so Teixeira at the time. But probably when I was a kid, it was definitely Mickey Mantle.
I assume your dad was probably Mantle, huh? You said he's got the picture.
Yeah. He's got just a bunch of Yankees stuff. He's a huge Yankees fan. He knows just about every player.
It was good to hear Teixeira's name, though, Dan. We ain't heard that in a while.
I'm telling you, old Marky Mark just, coming out of the woodworks there. He was actually a really good player. You forget about guys like him. I mean, I think that's the one downfall, Jim, with the Yankees is like you could get lost in the weeds. You could be a great player and get lost just because there's so many good players that come through there. But as we talk about good players, Ethan, you had a sensational, time at Marist. I mean, the stats are off the chart. Tell me a little bit about your experience there and what you learned most from your time at Marist.
Yeah. So I mean, going into it my freshman year, I hadn't played baseball for a year. My senior year, I dove into third and tore my labrum. So I ended up having surgery in my right labrum, and I missed the whole year, missed summer ball. So I kind of got there in the fall and, was struggling trying to get back into it. And then these older guys kind of took me under their wing, and even a few of the freshmen helped me out, and we would just train every single day, and it got better as the fall went on. And then the winter came, and I realized I'm going to have to make a lot of improvements over the winter if I want to play, because it just wasn't there in the fall. And so I just took that winter very serious. I worked really hard, and then I got back in the spring, and I was one of our better hitters in preseason, and then ended up getting an opportunity early on. First game, I got subbed in the third, and then I hit a triple and just stayed in the lineup ever since that. So I think it was really just, credit to the guys my teammates who, really took me under their wing and just helped me out through the struggles, and just kind of learned myself more. And then had a decent freshman year, and then went into summer ball, learned a lot there, and then obviously went back sophomore year with, a lot of confidence and had a really good year. So.
Yeah, you bring up summer ball, and obviously this was, later on down the line, but You killed it in the Cape, and we love to talk about the Cape. It's an opportunity for you to play with the best of the best from all over the country, and you obviously excelled and succeeded, which is, got a lot of people talking coming in the season. Talk about the Cape experience and just how awesome it was.
Yeah, I mean, so the Cape was just an unreal experience for me because, ever since I found out about the Cape, like I knew one day I wanted to, play in the Cape. So once I got that opportunity this summer, I knew I had to make the most of it. And I didn't really know what to expect when I, first got there, but I kind of showed up and took BP with the guys and, realized like I can fit in here. And then, I thought I was supposed to sit the first game because I just drove up that morning, and then the coach Lander said I'll play the next game, but he ended up just putting me in the 2-hole first game. I've been awake for like 10 hours, so I had to drive up. I went 2 for 4 with a double, and then
what a better way to stretch your legs from riding in the truck than to get out and play ball.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I had no idea I was going to play. But yeah, I mean, I had a good first game, and then I had a really good like first couple weeks up there, and it was just super fun. I had a great host mom, and it was just unreal experience to be able to play with some of the best talent in the country, meet new people from different places. My teammates were awesome, so it was great.
Yeah, we've heard nothing but the best from all the guys who played for Bourne. And as far as the Cape as a whole, me and Daniel want to go, but not just cover it. We want to experience it just like you did. We want to stay, with a host home. We want to be treated as if we're players, but then go show up to the field and cover you guys. But it's just something that we've been excited about. And we haven't had a guy yet that had a bad thing to say. Even if they didn't do well, they said it just made them better to get out there and get in that grind with the guys. But ultimately, you do the Cape thing, you leave Marist, but you choose Wake Forest. We obviously know it's an elite program, but for you, why was it Wake?
Yeah, I mean, so kind of when I entered the portal, June 3rd, like I had no idea, what type of schools were going to reach out. And then Wake was one of the first ones who, was on me pretty heavily. And, that just meant a lot to me, that they were, pretty persistent on getting me down there. And, once I came down here, I went on a few visits. I went to Arkansas, Vandy, I went to Wake, and then I had a few more lined up, like UNC, Ole Miss. But once I came down here and met, the coaches Billy, Moose, Wes, and Walt, and then some of the former players, Kurtz and Hartle, I was able to just see like the connection that they have with each other and just how they treat each other. And, it just made my decision pretty easy. I was like, I could totally see myself here. And I was just super set on coming to Wake. So it was a pretty easy decision.
Yeah, I mean, when I was talking to you, the very guys you mentioned going all the way back, for us, it started with Wilkin, and then we had Kurtz, and he said Hartle, Massey. Those guys made it easy for us to want to root for Wake Forest. Just the program itself was outstanding, but the guys that were there. And Daniel, I'm not gonna lie to you, he said Arkansas. Man, Ethan, I'm so glad. I'd have to root against you. Man, glad that didn't happen. He listed that off, Daniel. But no, man,
be rough.
You picked a great school, man. And, Coach Walter, I think he's one of the most underappreciated coaches. You see all these lists with these top coaches, and somehow this guy's not on there, even though he's reloading every year. He's getting guys like Ethan there. Talk about him just so far since the time you've been there, Ethan. What makes Coach Walter so special?
Yeah, I mean, Walt's been awesome. When we first got here, he had us read this book, The Boys in the Boat, and, reading that book, like I'm not the biggest reader, like I don't love reading, but I really did enjoy that book and kind of really made me understand what it's like to be a full team and work as one unit. And he's kind of just instilled that into us every single meeting. Like he fires me up every single meeting, almost every time he talks in the meeting, like all of us get chills, and he just knows what to say in the right moments. And he just instills confidence in his players. He brings great players to the program, because people want to play at Wake Forest. But I think the biggest thing with him and why Wake Forest is successful is because he knows how to make, really good players better and, make sure that they keep being confident and playing well. And it's just easy to play for a guy like that who, really cares. And, he'd take a bullet for you and we take one for him. Like he's a great coach. he fires us up before the game, and it's awesome to play for a guy like that.
Yeah, we saw the video, Daniel. You remember that first fall meeting that he had, and he was definitely energetic. But Daniel, talk about making guys better. Like he said, 3 guys went in the top 10 of last year's draft. Those are facts, and it says not only is this program competing, but making guys better, like he's saying. So with a guy like you and the projections they have, and you look at this opening weekend, I have no doubt that things are going to pan out. But let's talk about the opening weekend. Obviously, we hear great things all fall. We can hear that about every team, but love to see it on the field. And granted, obviously, you're not in ACC play yet, but I mean, y'all go out there for 4 games, and absolutely the offense is phenomenal. The pitching looks great. I know it's a little colder there. I've been there early in the season at the couch. You're not going to have as many fans just because it can be real cold, but soon enough, it'll be packed. But talk about that opening weekend. Just how much fun it was to play with those guys at the couch. Get 4 wins.
Yeah, I mean, it was just awesome to see kind of all the work that we've put in the past 7-8 months just come together. I felt like we had a really special group kind of since I got here, and it's been awesome to see it all come together. I mean, we really hit really well. We pitched really well. It was a lot of fun. It was great to have some of the fans there. It was just an unreal experience to be able to wear that jersey and just be out there with my guys and just be competing. It was so much fun. It was awesome.
Yeah, and I mean specifically the 2 guys that everybody's going to want to look at are you and Merrick. Dude, it's funny, Daniel. I could say 8 for 15, 10 RBIs, 5 doubles, home run. For Ethan, it sounds phenomenal. And then you read off Merrick's, like, man, y'all 2. But let's talk about him first, because I know guys like to talk about their teammates. Like, man, we know how good he is, but from your perspective, you're right there. Like, how awesome is Merrick Houston?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy to see. Like, I got to play with him in the summer, and I knew right from seeing him play just a couple games down there how good he was. I mean, the Cape fields aren't great. He's getting bad hops, making every single play. And then we're facing, tough arms. He's getting hits. And then obviously this weekend was just unreal. Like, I've never seen something like that happen. I mean, he was just locked in every single pitch, fouling off tough pitches, getting his pitch, crushing it. Like, it was crazy to see that. But I mean, I've known, since really I met him, that he was going to be that type of player who just goes out there and, does his job and just, exceeds expectations. Like, he's been just awesome. And I think it just obviously goes back to, the work he puts in every single day. Like, he knows himself, he knows what he has to do to get ready, and he just goes out there and does it. So it's been awesome to see that.
Yeah, no doubt. And talking about another teammate, because you're out in center field, Jack's at first base. Is center field going to be a permanent thing for you because he's there? Is this going to be a thing where y'all going to rotate around? What's it looking like?
Yeah, I mean, center field's going to be my position as long as I'm healthy and I'm holding it down. So I think I'm going to be in center hopefully the whole year. So
yeah, I mean, Daniel, I don't know, man. It's worked out pretty well for the last 2 center fielders we've had on for Wake, so I like the way it is. But like I said, you were 8 for 15, man. 5 doubles. I mean, I only saw a couple of the highlights. I mean, absolutely smashing the gap. What were you doing?
I was just trying to see the ball. Like, it's obviously kind of you get nerves and excitement, all these things. Like, you just want to try and stay calm and be yourself. Like, I was playing my former team, Marist. So obviously that's a little bit of added, pressure or whatever, but just trying to be myself, stay calm, see the ball and just be on it. And then, whatever happened, that's what happened. So I was
were there still a lot of your boys on the team? How did that go playing them?
Yeah, I mean, most of my guys are still there. They've got a lot of new, players from JUCOs or freshmen, but and then some of my friends transferred out, but it was cool to see them. I wish them the best. I have a lot of love for them and the coaches too. But I mean, once the game started, it was just time to compete. So.
Oh yeah, but when it's over, man, especially since you got the win, you got the bragging rights. You got to give them the love, and obviously that university helped mold you into what you are. And like you said, they gave you offers when very few were, and I think there's something to be said about that. And when you were talking about Wake being one of the first ones to reach out, me and Daniel hear that all the time, man. If you're not first, a lot of times you're last, and it's meaningful to guys when you hit the portal and 5 minutes later your phone's ringing and there's a school all over you with interest. And especially when it's the head guy, Daniel. We talk about that, like, and when it's always like the assistant guy, it's like, what are we saying here? If Coach Walter ain't got time to call me, what are we talking about? But three of y'all's first four ACCs matchup, like Daniel, unless there is a misprint, but I looked it over, are at home at the couch. Like, and maybe this is something y'all talk about, Ethan. Do y'all talk about, the opportunity and having to take advantage of the early ACC schedule with everybody coming to y'all?
We haven't really talked about that much, but I mean, we know every single ACC game is important, whether it's home or away. But I think it's awesome that we get to spend a lot of time at home to start it. We love playing at home. We know our field, we love our fans, and it's going to be a great time. Once ACC play starts, and we're going to be able to be at home, so we're excited for it.
I mean, Jim, they got to take advantage of it, man, because looking at the schedule, and Ethan, the tougher games, not that any game is easy, but the tougher games are on the road. You're going to Clemson, you're going to Carolina, you're going to Florida State. So
I'll tell you one that's circled on there for the other team, Daniel. I remember the series I went to last year, Ethan, was at Wake with Clemson, and that was when everybody was all over Clemson, and then Wake smacked them down. Chase Burns shoved, clean sweep. So I guarantee you a lot of those Clemson guys got that circled. But, yeah, you're right, Daniel. They go to Clemson, and then there's another big one, Florida State. So, yeah, and then North Carolina. So, yeah, y'all got three big ones on the road, so got to take care of business. But the ACC is awesome. Me and Daniel are big SEC guys, but we don't deny that the ACC is right there with the SEC. There's, last year there were 4 SEC, 4 ACC in Omaha. Me and Daniel said it's probably like Oregon's the one team that we think can maybe mix it up, but it feels like it's probably going to be the same thing. Daniel, the other thing I was thinking about center field, that little hump at the end, Ethan, that most people can't see on TV or walking. Does that mess with you at all?
That's funny. So one of my best friends is the Mariners center fielder, and he was asking me what that's about, and I was like, I haven't even thought of it since the first week I got here, because obviously at first it's tough, but you learn it in BP, being out there every single day. So now it doesn't bother me. But once I first got here, I remember first practice I fell, and Moose kind of was chirping me. He's like, "You're gonna have to learn that if you want to play center." And I was like, "You're right."
Tommy Hawk told us a few years ago that's where we learned from. He said it was an adjustment at first.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, once you get used to it, it's fine. So.
Daniel, I wonder when the other team's coming in, the coaches got to make sure to do that reminder. Hey guys, by the way,
bro, I'm just gonna play no doubles, and if they hit it over my head, I'm just gonna let it be. I'm just gonna leave it.
But last thing, man, and then we'll let Daniel get into the game. You talking about those guys that you met that came in before. When you have guys like Wilkin and Kurtz and all those guys that have played before you, there's these big time guys. Are those guys that have poured and mentored into the guys that are there? Like, do they still help out with the program now that they've left?
Yeah, I mean, all those guys you mentioned, Brock, Kurt, Seaver, Chase. I mean, they've all been down multiple times. Hartle, Pierce, bunch of guys, Keener. They come down and they help out with pens or whatever it is. But they're in the clubhouse. They're talking to us, making relationships with us. So it's awesome to just kind of be able to talk to people who have been through it, had success.
Get Rhett Louder to show up and give you a live session. That'll get you ready for anything.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, he's been there too. I mean, it's a lot of them that come down and help. I mean, it's pretty unreal to be able to be in the same place as them. So
Daniel, he's going to be the next one to cost me a bunch of money on a baseball card. So Ethan, I buy the first Bowman autographs of any guy that comes on this show, and Wake Forest guys have definitely cost me a bunch of money.
Of course they did. I mean, I would be, since we're on it, like, I have to bring this up because this right here is something that is unreal. All right. Just when someone uses the word vaporizing baseballs and then you see it hit in the top upper deck, like, so first walk me through this. This is, you're testing out bats, right? And you get to just set up like they in the scoreboard, they've got the hit track on, and like you get to just take hacks all day. Like, how do you get to be a part of this?
Yeah, I mean that was awesome. They kind of reached out, to my agent, and they they just said like we'd like Ethan to be a part of this. It was the first time they were doing it. Um, and I got to go down there. I didn't really know what to expect, but it was awesome. Like there was a bunch of talent there, from all ages. Like there was the number one 15-year-old in the country was there, and he was hitting bombs. And there was players, Cuvée, Ike Irish, like just great players were there, and it was just cool to meet them, and just form relationships with them, as well. But I mean that experience was awesome. Like it was basically just see which bat you like the best, and we were all just there hitting nukes. So
Look, Daniel, when I was given the time frame to do with Connor Griffin a couple of weeks ago,
Yeah.
the reason I was given the time frame is he was heading over to Marucci afterwards to custom make his bats. I was like, God, that's awesome.
I mean, that's big time. Ethan, last question before we get into our game. I'm curious. When you have all of this, this hype, and I don't call it hype. You've earned the respect of any title that's given to you, but there's a lot of like first round, prospect, like this kind of talk, with your name followed by that. Does that mean anything right now to you? Is there any added pressure or any anxiety that you get to kind of try to have to live up to any of that, or you just go out and just play the game?
yeah, I mean for me, like it's kind of like it's just cool to have that, those talks being said about me. But I mean I know that the thing that's got me there to this point is just me being myself, me playing my game, um, just me being focused and just going at every single day, with just consistent focus, is what's got me here at this point. So there's no reason to sideline away from that. So yeah, I mean every single day I just try to prepare myself as best as possible, and then just go out there and play the same game I've been playing, all my whole life. It's really no different. So yeah, I wouldn't say there's added pressure. I mean, there's a bunch of different guys that are, have the same talk about themselves that I have about me. And I mean, I think they say the same thing. Like they're just going out there preparing and, trying to just play the game as best they can. So for me, that's what I'm
It's
doing.
as simple as just do whatever it takes to help your team win a national championship, and everything else will play itself out.
100%. Yeah.
That's it. Well, Ethan, man, it's that time. 500 plus guests have played the game this or that. Are you down to play?
Yeah. We could play.
All right, let's go. All right, it's very simple. I'm going to give you two options. You choose one option or the other. Can't say both. Can't say neither. Be decisive. Go with your head. Go with your heart. Go with your gut. Just pick one.
All right.
Jim, this or that. Who's it brought to you by?
Chinook Cedary, 8 flavors, mild to wild, the best in the game. Less salt, no sandpaper tongue. Daniel, I must tell you, on my way back from Baton Rouge, I stopped at a random hole in the wall gas station, and you better believe they had 4 different flavors. I was very impressed. So it wasn't, the Buc-ee's, it wasn't the Raceways, the ones we expect, but man, something else. So they are making their way. I told you when we went out to the West Coast last year, they were there. So pretty impressed. I'm actually racking my brain right now, thinking with Michael Massey gone, who's the Wake ambassador? And if not, we need to get it set up because I don't know. Ethan, y'all been having the Chinook seeds around the dugout?
We haven't.
Oh man, we got to fix this. We'll talk after this. That's unacceptable. We got to make sure they have boxes.
Jim, I'll tell you a little story. Obviously, last week I talked to you about how Chinook hooked me up. They sent me, a huge care package of 10 boxes of seeds of all flavors, especially some smokehouse barbecue, my fave. I had my pack like I normally do to go walk and pick up my daughter from school, and there was a kid. He was probably 16, 17, but he saw me with my Chinook shirt on, saw me, popping seeds, and he was like, "Oh man, I love Chinook." And so we started talking, and he was like, I play baseball at the local high school, Alonzo High School, right up the road. And I was like, well, I said, I'll do you one better. I said, meet me here tomorrow. I'm going to pick up my kid from school at this time. Meet right here, and I'll have something for you. So I took him one of my boxes. I filled it up with a variety and hooked it up. So Alonzo High School here in Tampa, Florida is going to be having themselves a little bit of Chinook.
It's a true grow the game moment. And since you brought that up, real quick, shout out Ethan Petrie. I did the post, man. The kid was a Tennessee fan, moved to Columbia, South Carolina. Wasn't really about being, a South Carolina baseball fan. I said, you don't have to be a South Carolina fan, but it'd be a shame to not go to Founders Park. Let me hook you up with my guy, Ethan Petrie. Goes to the game, checks it out. Ethan meets him, gets him an autograph ball. Now he can't wait to go back. So shout out, Ethan.
I mean, you couldn't have picked a better dude unless you put Dylan Askew up there. That'd be nice too. But hey,
I just sent him to Wake.
Yeah, Ethan will hook him up. Happy to have him over there. But Ethan, let's jump into this game so we can get you out of here, man. All right, first question. We're on the sunflower seed train, so I'll ask you: sunflower seeds or a bubblegum kind of guy?
Definitely sunflower seeds.
Hey, you got to go with it.
What's the favorite flavor?
Cracked pepper.
Cracked pepper. Parmesan and pepper. Got that.
We already know what his flavor is going to be, just like Paul Skeens.
Let's go. All right, better topping, since you're a New York guy, better topping on a New York style pizza, pepperoni or sausage, or is it like frowned upon to put a topping on New York style pizza?
Pepperoni for sure.
Pepperoni.
Why you say that, Daniel? Anytime I've gotten New York style pizza, it's usually pepperoni.
Well, I mean, it's like one of those things, like when you're not there and you're not a local, like it may just be like you should have New York style pizza with just cheese. Like that's how we do things here. Only you folks from out of here come and put toppings on our pizza. Like,
look, Daniel, I'm not a big Dave Portnoy guy, but I do like his pizza stuff. And he was down there for the Super Bowl, and he went to in Metairie in Louisiana. He went to a pizza spot that claimed to have the war between New York style and Chicago style. Anyway, he gave the New York style like an 8.6, which he said is about as high as he's ever given. And he said, I can't believe I found this in Louisiana. And so shout out whatever the name of that shop was, because they get it done.
Hey, get it. Ethan, you were a basketball guy, so I'll ask you, All-Star Game festivities have just concluded. Are you a dunk contest guy or a three-point contest guy?
I like to see the 3-point contest.
Yeah. That's the only one that people, I don't know. Damian Lillard just got that thing on lock. But
no, I hadn't watched either in a few years. I don't know.
I mean, that's the sad reality is like it's gotten to a point now. I mean, I was watching Chris Paul and Wemby do the skills challenge, and they like got to the part where they are supposed to shoot. And they just kind of didn't shoot.
Yeah.
They were trying to save time because I guess time was the indicator of the score, not how many baskets you made. And so like they got disqualified and booed. But like that right there is the epitome of why these things are terrible right now. It's because they don't care.
But I agree with you because, everybody talks about the best dunk contest back in the day. But when you had the 3-point contest and it wasn't just random guys, but you had all the best shooters in the league, I mean, the bragging rights on that meant everything then.
Yeah.
If you remember back in I don't know, there was an All-Star game in Philly, and Kobe Bryant was going back to where he's from in Philly. And he basically tells this story of he got the lineup together and was like, hey, I don't care what you guys do, but I'm going to go out there and I'm going to beat the hell out of this team. So do what you want, but like I'm Kobe Bryant, and here's what's about to happen. I'll score 100 points on these bleepity bleeps. So like you don't get that anymore. Like guys like literally don't care, and it's frustrating. But on the lines of basketball, LeBron or Jordan?
I've always been a Jordan guy, although it's hard to argue against LeBron.
This show was founded on Jordan. We never thought what we would be doing now was the thing. The three of us guys were talking about the last dance during COVID. Next thing you know, we started interviewing some of the local baseball guys, and here we are, like Daniel said, 500 and something guests later, the best of the best. But it all starts with the GOAT.
Yep. The GOAT. Ohtani or Trout?
Otani.
I mean, it's
Boo. Daniel, I'm telling you, Trout is gonna feel the fuel. He's gonna be healthy this season. He's heard everybody talking. He's gonna be the best. Just wait. His team's still
why
gonna
are
suck.
I was going to say you about to
Hey,
about to get back on that
our boy
bandwagon.
Christian Moore, Survivor winner, is fixing to be up there with him. I mean, he ain't gonna help him get to the playoffs, but it's gonna be fun to watch. And Ben Joyce, we got another guest that's there.
Very true. But I still don't think that's going to make a difference. It's really not. They're not.
It'll be a shame to have a guy who throws 106 miles an hour, a guy that's arguably the best player in the game, Mike Trout, and even Christian Moore, the young phenom, and they still won't be good. It's just sad.
Sad. Very sad. Who will be good again first, the Giants or the Jets?
Neither.
Jets.
Jets. Are you a Jets fan?
Yeah.
Okay. Why? What do they got? Like, is
Got rid of Aaron Rodgers first, and they can start over finally.
I mean, let's be real. That's one factor of many, but like, what are the Jets gonna do that's gonna be like, oh, this is putting us over the edge?
I don't got an answer for that.
He's
But
just rolling with
I
his
got to
team.
go with the Jets.
They're
I
both
feel
probably
you.
not going to be good for a while, Daniel. I mean, the thing about it is that at least the Jets don't have to feel bad that they gave away the best running back in football like the Giants did.
That's true. True that. All right. Minor league baseball mascots. Yard goat or rumble pony? If you had to pick between the two, what would you pick?
I honestly don't even know what they are.
Just go off the name. What sounds better,
off the name.
the yard goats or the rumble ponies?
The yard goat.
Actually, got the yard goat right here.
I mean, here's a Hartford yard goat hat right there. I mean, that's pretty.
Yeah,
pretty
it's got to be the
legit.
yard goat.
I will say, I think the rumble pony is a better one if we could show you, but yard goat is definitely a good one. All right,
And then
what
the
would you?
rumble ponies got their new alternate, which is that crazy one, Daniel. The bathtub donkeys.
Bathtub donks. Let's go. All right, let's do yard goat or trash panda. Trash panda is a pretty famous one. Rocket City.
Trash panda.
Trash
Check this
panda.
out. Their alternate. Christian Moore signed this for me. The lunatics. It's pretty sick.
Yeah, that was nice.
You can't beat minor league baseball mascots.
You'll be wearing them. You'll be wearing them soon enough. I mean, it's not the black and gold of Wake Forest, but you're gonna have some crazy mascots. Yeah. Crazy. That's the thing, Daniel. When they wear these alternates, I mean, I was messing with Logan Tanner one time. I was like, bro, y'all wore neon pink, green. Like they'll just put you in anything.
And I mean, it's like Tulane and wearing their alternate uniforms this past week.
The Mardi Gras. Randy gonna send us a message talking about that dude needs a raise because those uniforms are awesome. I was like, I don't know what you're looking at, bro.
When we talk most disappointing later, that's my most disappointing. All right, Ethan. Last question. Would you rather spend 5 years in jail or 10 years in a coma?
5 years in jail.
Ooh, man, he didn't even hesitate.
Can't waste 5 extra years.
You heard him.
I mean, that's a rough 5 years, man. I'd rather
Daniel wants to
sleep it off.
Give me prison too.
Nah, man, I ain't built for that.
Look, see, Ethan's thought about this. He knows he'll be in his 30s by the time. I'll be trying to tell Daniel he's got young kids. They'll be all grown up. Like, bro, you don't want to miss 10 years. And he's all like, give me the nap. I don't want jail.
Oh, man.
You get jacked in jail.
There you go. See, he's going to get on swole.
You got nothing else.
You get a lot of things.
Have a baseball league, Daniel. You seen life.
Look, I don't know what Ethan thinks. It ain't gonna be like the Longest Yard where they're gonna pick him to play in the prison baseball league.
No,
like,
they do. A lot of those leagues, all jokes aside, a lot of those leagues do have a baseball. If they have anything, it is baseball. That or you can play on the basketball court, but at least in baseball, you're not gonna get tackled.
I mean, no, I'm good. Either
I had you ask that for the final question because I knew the answer to the first pick or the national championship. You don't go to Wake Forest and transfer out from Marist if you're not trying to win a national championship because we have two questions that can be the last question. The one you got, or would you rather be the first pick in the MLB draft or get $5 million? Or excuse me, I said that wrong. Win a national championship or get the first pick in the draft?
Win the national championship because
I already knew the answer.
Hey, Very true. Very true.
But he said I'll be the first pick in the draft and win a national championship.
So I'll just do it.
Steens came on here and did it, but he said he's the reason why we believe guys, right? Like we used to think guys were always lying, and then he came on here and said I'd keep my national championship and give the money back. Which, as Daniel said, it's easy for him to say that. If he had to hand over the cash, it might not be so easy.
I know.
Yeah.
Like I would, I think everyone without the scenario in front of them could make a quick decision and answer it. But like if there's cold hard cash sitting right in front of you, that makes it a lot more difficult.
But I'll tell you, since we got a Wake Forest guy on, me and Brock Wilkin had the conversation in Omaha and talked about it because we obviously asked him that question when he was on, and that feeling that he had losing on that stage, he said it's the worst feeling ever. And he didn't want to ever feel that again. And so he was like, give me the championship. And so that kind of put some perspective on it.
Yeah, definitely. It hurts. Hurts when you get that close.
Well, you guys better look. Daniel's going to be with me in Omaha this time. He wasn't there in 2023 when Wake was there. So you guys got to make a run at it, and he's got to be there to see Wake Forest in person.
Yes,
Ready
sir.
to see Ethan Conrad do his thing. Let's go. All right, Ethan, anything you want to plug or promote before you get out of here?
That's a good question. I mean, I don't really got anything, but thank you guys for having me on. For sure, this was fun.
Absolutely. Well, I'll help everybody out. Everybody, tomorrow night in Greensboro, North Carolina, at 5 p.m. ESPN Plus. It is the Wake Forest Demon Deacons heading up to Greensboro to take on the UNC Greensboro.
What time does it start, Daniel?
Trojans. 5 p.m.
So by 5:04, there's going to be multiple bombs hit.
Oh, probably. And then, obviously, you got a big series this weekend against St. John's.
Which,
at the crib.
Ethan might appreciate the story before he cut him loose. Daniel, of all the guys we've had on here, I have never had Trayson Hughes from Virginia Tech sends me a text before the game, Ethan. He says, make sure you stay tuned. He says the game starts at 1. They were obviously the home team, so they're going to bat second. He said by 1:12, it's going to be 1-0. I'll be damned, Daniel, if he didn't Babe Ruth that thing. Send me that text, and he had a leadoff home run to start that game. 110 off the bat, too.
Wow. He's getting it.
But he missed the Sunday game with a sore hamstring, so he's still soft.
Dang. Hey, he's got to do better. He'll be better this weekend. Wake Forest this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 4 p.m. Friday, 4 p.m. Saturday at the couch. St. John's coming to town. St. John's, let me tell you something. You ain't ready for what.
Don't do that. You did this spill last week, and our guest got handed to him.
I'm still doing it. I'm still going for it because St. John's, you don't even know. You can have a good basketball team. You can have a good lot of things. But when you go to Winston-Salem, you're going to know one thing. You're not the better team. Wake Forest is. So enjoy that trip because you're going to go back home with a loss. Y'all can check it out on ACC Network. 4 p.m. Friday, 4 p.m. Saturday, 1 p.m. on Sunday. Ethan, appreciate you coming on, man. If there's anything that we can do for you, let us know. And as always, have a happy, safe, successful, injury-free season. And when you guys have a magical run, we'll bring you back on and we'll talk about it, man.
Yes, sir. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Absolutely. That's Ethan Conrad, everybody from Wake Forest. Check them out. It's going to be big night tomorrow and an even bigger series this weekend against St. John's. But Jim, we got to talk. There's a lot of stuff that we got to unpack here. Obviously, starting with college baseball. The start was this week, and it's been long, arduous off season. We've been talking, we've been interviewing, and the wait is finally over, and we can now break down the first weekend. So with that, we got to talk biggest surprise from your end. Who you got?
If we're going to go surprise, so not who is most impressive, biggest surprise, I'm actually going to go with the loss, right? Who I didn't expect to come out and look that bad, and it's got to be Duke. Not that I was the highest on Duke, but I clearly thought they were worthy of their ranking. We had them at 15. So did, all the other. And Cincinnati not only took the series, but man, beat them handily 2 times. I just didn't expect that from this Duke team, especially Cincinnati. We know they're decent, but I don't know, and in their house at that.
Well, I think we're so accustomed, and especially last season and the year before, you see Duke putting up the most runs in college baseball. And then you see them, this weekend just absolutely be befuddled by, I'm not going to say a not good Cincinnati team, but like they're not going to be ACC caliber team that you're going to see on a day-to-day basis. And so, it is disappointing to see Duke and, have the struggles. I mean, when you end the weekend losing 19-5, they had 4 errors to contribute to those 19 runs. So there is that you got to clean up.
It'll
That'll
be
probably
interesting to see, is Cincinnati actually good, or was this on Duke, right? I mean, that's always the perception and the reason I use Duke is because I feel like with at least Arizona, playing neutral site against 3 great teams, right? Like that can happen. And maybe it's, they may have been overranked, but it may not be as much about as they were bad, just as much as playing good teams, basically on the road kind of.
Yeah, I mean it's early in the season too. You're still trying to figure things out. I think the biggest thing is, Duke's got to clean up things defensively. They had 9 errors in 3 games. Like that's giving teams extra outs, and when you do that, you're going to find yourself on the wrong end of wins and losses. So I think they clean up the defensive part of it. They compete a little bit better. They're in the game, and then you can utilize your bullpen and your guys the way that they're intended, because the game is a little bit closer and like the situations
Well, and
match
like
up
we were
more.
talking about with Ethan, I mean, with the ACC, if you're Duke, you definitely got to clean up because there's not going to be margin for error in this conference.
Not at all. Not when you got, Wake Forest, you got Virginia, you got Clemson, you got North Carolina. I mean, you got just a plethora
Do
of
you think
Florida State, Miami. I mean, Miami's down, but I mean, still a team that is traditionally, one of the better teams.
What do you think about Virginia and the close loss to Michigan? Is this maybe the pressure and the expectations got to them? The fact they're playing Puerto Rico, or just maybe Michigan's good, or could be the latter, could be all 3.
Yeah, it's probably a combination of all 3. I just think it's Michigan. We know what Virginia brings, and they're going to bring this style of baseball. And sometimes you're on the winning end of that, and sometimes you're on the losing end. And I mean, you look at their Friday game, they lost in extra innings by 1. So you add all that and put it all together, and like, I mean, I'm not too worried about Virginia.
I mean,
I said
we
it.
got them right where they were ranked. We actually didn't drop them at all. We didn't put them at 2 like D1 did. So I mean, I feel fine about them where they're ranked currently.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we'll get into rankings and stuff, but yeah, I would say I think they're fine. I mean, they're coached well. I mean, we know the guys that they have in the dugout. They're gonna figure it out. This is just like a little early blip, little bump in the road that they gotta, figure out how to navigate. And once they do, it'll make them a better team. And when Virginia is cooking, like they're a scary team.
I'll tell you, because it's not on the list, who we're not going to really talk about because I didn't learn anything. Obviously, I was in person for LSU. Fort Wayne, man, Daniel, there's no way I can actively tell you anything about LSU because this team just, wasn't very good. Outside of their catcher having an absolute cannon and throwing runners out, with LSU being extra aggressive, they obviously learned that they're going to have better timings on their jump against elite catchers. But outside of that, I mean, guys were steadily throwing in the high 70s, low 80s, Daniel. It's just, as a matter of fact, I thought it probably didn't benefit LSU because that's not going to be a realistic look of what you're going to see on a regular basis.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that you can say is that they, they were able to do what they should have done against that team. Like, had they not have come out there and done that, then we would be having a different conversation. They
Like
could have won the
Arkansas
game.
fans are having.
Right. They could have won the game 5-2 or 6-3 or something like that. But the questions then would have been like, well, how good is this LSU team? Not, well, we don't know how good they are because the competition that we played isn't that great. Like,
The beauty of not having Twitter was I didn't have to see the people who sit there and talk bad about me when I talk about Arkansas, talk bad about their own team because they almost lost the opening game. I, however, was sent pictures of it from friends who said they were already imploding and losing their mind game one. Arkansas.
It's I wish I could say that I would be surprised about that, but I mean, we're not. Like, that fan base is very finicky when it comes to wins and losses, and it's it is what it is. But I think for me, as far as surprises, and I'm not really surprised that they were able to win all 3 games, but Dallas Baptist goes out, and I was telling you this, they have 15 strikeouts. Their staff has 15 strikeouts in the first game, 7 in the second game, and 14 more in the third game. I mean, you're looking at a crazy amount of strikeouts per game. And like, when you look at who they have coming back, which is the majority of the team, and you have arms like that, it makes it look like they could be a scary team. And we'll see. They're going to get tested. They got LSU soon.
I mean, DBU and Coastal Carolina are the 2 teams that are not in the Power 4 who can actually make some noise. They got the talent, they got the depth. They're not scared of the bigger teams. As a matter of fact, when I was talking with Chance, he didn't even like when I said the bigger teams because he said we feel like we are one of those bigger teams. And I know DBU has that same mentality.
Absolutely. I mean, they played North Dakota State, so I'll ask you: am I putting too much stock into the number of strikeouts against the North Dakota State team, or am I on par with saying like that's
because
pretty
pretty
impressive?
When you see some of the teams that struggle, because it wasn't only Arkansas, when you have as many teams that struggled in opening weekend as they did, it's like you said, you want to focus on who took care of business. Because, I mean, you look like Georgia dropped a game, Virginia dropped a game, Vandy dropped a game, so on and so forth. So, yeah, you want to look crisp, and no matter who it is.
Definitely. All right. So, surprises. What about disappointments? Biggest disappointment for you?
Man,
I mean, I'll give you mine, and it's tough because they are who we think they are. Oklahoma State, like, they always come in the season ranked and have the opportunity to do something. Then they drop 2 of their 3 this weekend, and I get it. Like,
and really the only reason they're still ranked right there and not further back is because that game wasn't over when I did that graphic, because Luke Hill even asked me, he's like, dang, you got Oklahoma State still in front of us? I was like, nah, I'd already posted it.
Got him. But for you, I mean, like, there's a few others out there. That one just sticks out to me.
You know what I'm going to say? I want to surprise you because I thought about this, and our next guest is from there. Man, I started my season out there last year with Campbell, and they took 2 of 3 from UCSB, and obviously they had to go out there this year, and Coach Hare isn't there, but I was being told by a lot of the Campbell faithful that they expected this team to be just as good as last year's, if not better, and obviously that's the fan base. And Dalen, said some of these same sentiments, and they went out there and got absolutely handled. And so I'm disappointed that they couldn't be more competitive, at least go get one on the road. Makes me really wonder, we'll talk to Dalen about it, but the state of this program now that Coach Hare, because I think at the end of the day, people don't realize there's a reason why we had him on this show. He built that program to what it is. And it's going to be hard for them to sustain the success they had, but it makes me wonder, there's a lot of hype on UCSB now, but we saw that last year. I'm going to have to see them do it against somebody else now, because I don't know if it was just more about Campbell not being as good.
Yeah. What about like Duke? Duke was pretty abysmal. We talked about them.
We had already addressed them. So let me ask you this, the most impressive team, being North Carolina, but could we say that Texas Tech was the most disappointing because they went in there and got swept, and, for 2 of the games weren't even very competitive?
Yeah, I mean, it's I think so I'll say this. I think the level of competition that they played in regards to other teams was a lot higher. So if you come out of that losing all 3 games or losing 2
But I
of
feel
the
like in
3
those
games,
series, you always want to get. It's not. I was talking about Campbell. I feel like when you're on the road against a team that's better, you really want to get one. You just want to get one, and they weren't even close to getting one.
yeah, true, true. I mean, you could definitely throw them out there, for sure. I mean, I would like to think that the competition early in the season they're going to be able to turn it around, and disappointing maybe for the weekend, but we might look back on it after this weekend and go, oh, okay, like now they've figured it out. They know.
I'm trying to figure out why so many people were commenting on all the different things, and even mine talking about A&M wasn't that impressive. Look, all I know is they run ruled on 2 of the 3, and Laviolette had 3 bombs. Prager, threw 6 innings scoreless. Like I was trying to figure out, like, I think people were just looking at a way to nitpick the number 1 team because they're trying to be haters. I'm not really worried about that team at all.
No, I would not. I wouldn't even give them 2 thoughts. One of the teams I will say that actually looked good and I thought played really well. And granted, I was flipping through and we talked about this is, ESPN having the luxury of being able to see multiple games and like all these like individual, conference networks being able to watch games and having like these showdowns and things having their own streaming platform. But Nebraska, they took 2 of 3 this weekend. They
And
look
that
pretty good.
dude taking one off the face and
I
smiling where
That was kind of my segue into it, man. 106 and it hopped, like it hit the ground. Like that baseball was just moving, dude. And I know exactly what happened. I looked at some of the comments and people were like, you know, what is he doing? Like the ball hit the ground, like he should be able to like react and get out of the way if the ball's hitting the ground. But what people don't understand is like depending on the spin off the bat, sometimes the ball has that top spin and it hits and it speeds up at you. And that's why like guys who, sit back on balls, they get eaten up sometimes because the ball will hit and it'll actually speed up on you and it gets in on you a lot faster. And I think that's what happened here is, because he throws the pitch, he recognizes the ball off the ground, but like he couldn't like react fast enough. But I mean, like a boss, he gets up and he's just
Well,
like,
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because something that I wanted to ask you about in real time that I had completely forgotten about that I can bring up now, sticking kind of with that same topic. What are your thoughts about a pitcher? It's the first time I've gotten to see Anthony Ianson. He's a guest upcoming for LSU, but he showed defensive abilities. But as great as that was, and everybody praising him, it actually scared me because he had 3 different balls hit back at him, and I thought you're clearly your pitch location is not where you want it to be if you're having them smoke back at you repeatedly.
yeah, I mean, it's so, sometimes when guys hit the ball back at you up the middle, they're not intending to hit it there. They're barreling up a ball or the ball is like
Yeah,
the
that's what I'm
batter's
saying.
trying
So
to stay inside the baseball and they're catching a ball as it's running. And yes, the ball's probably catching.
so let me ask
more than it
you
should.
this. So he was getting a lot barreled. They were luckily going right to people or he was stopping them. But I mean, it felt like they were getting smoked to everybody in the infield, including himself. From you, like not even seeing it, what does that usually mean the pitcher is doing? Because I felt like while the outs were being made, it wasn't ideal because we're not talking about ground balls. We're talking about coming hot.
Yeah, I mean, usually that's just you're catching, and you see this early in the season. You're catching too much of the plate. You're trying to do too much, and the ball is running back across the plate. So, um, you know, once you tone that down and start, painting some black and hitting some corners, or even working 1 or 2 balls off the plate, and then
Yeah,
finding
because
your way
the
back
first
in.
2 hitters of the game specifically, one smoked one right back at him, one hot, just like you were talking about. That's what made me think about it. And then the next one was a line drive right at Bear Jones' head at first base. So I was like, yeah, there was 2 good barrels, but just right to
And
somebody.
and bros, sometimes like we've talked about it on this show to pitchers too. Like it's a luxury having a defense that you trust and rely on, because as a pitcher, you can just go up there and throw
Mhm.
plate and let people hit the baseball, and regardless of how hard they hit it, you got guys that are going to defend it.
Yeah, and I mean, this is
And
since
when you get a team like Purdue, Fort Wayne, like you might kind of feel that way, especially on a Sunday where you're like, all right, we've won 2 games, we pounded this team. Like, I just got to go out there and just throw it across the plate, and we're gonna win.
yeah, and I mean, I feel about as good as ever as I have about the LSU infield because you had Milam, who's an elite defensive player, move over to shortstop because you had such a good second baseman coming in with Dickinson, which then moved Braswell over to third where he feels more comfortable. And obviously, Barrett Jones is an elite defender. So this is about as good as I felt about the infield because, a lot of times with LSU, it's just been more about the bats, not the defense.
Yeah. I'm curious to see, and I think we both are. I think as the season goes on, you start having to see who's in the bullpen. And I think we're gonna, as the season rolls on, we're gonna get into that. Our guests, man, and we can talk Survivor base, but like our guests just absolutely crushed this weekend. I mean,
15 guys had the opportunity to win. And what I mean by that is we had one get a save. We had 2 that had relief appearances, but no, couldn't make it on the decision. Only Riley Maddox didn't get a win. 14 of 15. Even guys like Tucker Bivin and other relievers came in, and there's just Alton Davis ended up not starting, came in and got the win. So for 14 of 15, that's insane.
yeah, I mean, you had 3 guys hit 3 home runs this weekend. Like, bro, like that.
Idols being given out without even a midweek game. That's
I'm telling you, like like when I thought about it, I was like, shit, like, are we at a point where we've got to like make the criteria a little bit harder? Like,
Well, and then some of the
I don't
guys that
think
we didn't
so,
even
but like
some of the guys we didn't even pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to even ask you. I was going to joke with you and be like, look, man, let's add a little wrinkle into the game. Everybody had someone eliminated. Now everybody bring in somebody new, 4 new players, just because there were guys who didn't get picked that went on, like a Luke Hill. I was on the fence about picking him. He hits 2 bombs, including batting like 600 for the weekend. And it's like, we got to just throw that little wrinkle, and everybody picks up somebody that didn't get picked. Like our guest, let's see, Inslee had a grand slam. Curiel, who I was trying to decide between him and Jake Brown. He looks great. And let me tell you something, Daniel. I love to see. I put all those clips this weekend on YouTube. The clip that has gotten the most by far, his perfect bunt has surpassed all the bombs and all the strikeouts. I think I've seen a lot of comments on there. Obviously, like I think people can appreciate a bunt that rolls perfect all the way to the bag without moving left or right at all.
People appreciate that small ball, man. Like it bombs are sexy, but like bunts pay
Here's
the
the thing,
bills,
though. I
baby.
told you about that cannon on that catcher. He laid that bunt, then he got thrown out going to second.
He ain't worried about that. He's all good.
Now, Jake Brown, I mean, everybody. Jake, that I asked Jake, and he said that dude's as good as anybody. They'll see all year. Jay Brown got thrown out, and this is over. Obviously, the 2 games was there. Derek Curiel, Dickerson. Everybody, ironically, the one guy that got away with it is the guy. I don't even know why he was stealing, but they sent Barrett Jones, and he got there. I like, well, make sense. But that ball was also buried in the dirt.
I mean, you're looking at guys. Jace, 3 for 10, 3 hits, 4 walks, 2 Ks, 3 home runs, 6 RBIs. Like Jacob Walsh, 4 for 12, 333 batting average, 4 hits, 3 home runs, 5 RBIs.
Petrie had a phenomenal weekend. Obviously, he only had the 1 homer, but he had multiple doubles and a triple.
Hey, it's good to see your boy Cade Anderson going out there throwing 5 and striking out 8.
Well,
That's
and that
nice
was the thing
day.
on the bringing up, Ianson, because Cade Anderson got no contact. He was striking them all out, and if they did make contact, it was a pile up. He looked really good, and he only goes. I think they had him go like 69 pitches, so obviously doesn't go deep into it, but look real good. LSU didn't even have to really use. Obviously we got to see our guest DJ Primo come in and strike out the side, but the relievers were dominant, and didn't even have to go through a lot of them. That's why guys like Guidry and a whole bunch of other guys didn't even get to touch the mound. You had 1 starter and then 2 relievers come in, basically get 2 innings each and cruise. So A lot of guys still didn't even get their opportunity.
What about Nate Snead? All right, shout out to him. He's getting the start on Sunday. He pitches 3 innings. I mean, he gets a no decision, gives up 2 hits, 1 earned run, and that was in the very first inning.
Mhm.
I want to believe that, and Nate's such a good dude, good character. He's going to work hard, but do you think a lot of this is just like mental, just getting into the mental side of being a starter? Like
Yeah, but I don't think. Here's the thing: I don't think it's going to be his position unless he just kills it. Because you got to remember, the projected arguably best pitcher in the SEC, AJ Russell, will be back. So it may just be a limited time thing. Maybe he can earn it. It obviously depends on him and Marcus Phillips, because I feel like only Liam Doyle. But they had a lot of guys. I mean, we had on Tanner Franklin and the guys who said they were all going to be putting in a fight for it. I think there's a lot of guys who he may, we know Tony, it's going to start with these midweeks, get opportunity. It's going to rotate around. But I do like, especially with Combs not there, is him being the guy, because you still want to have that one guy on the back end that can shut it down.
But you also, with Stamos last year, how he was used in that starter role, and it was for like limited innings. Like he was quick to pull him out, like early.
I just know it's something about that. It's reason why, like, Guidry's good enough to start for LSU. Jay just doesn't want to do it because he wants him to be his guy, and it's hard because whether you're talking about Snead or Guidry, these guys want to start. But at the end of the day, these college coaches want to be able to win games, and one of the ways to do that is knowing you have a guy on the back end who can shut it down.
Yeah, and Snead's definitely that guy. But top 25, you put it out. You asked me. You said, "Should I put this out?" And I was like, "Yeah." Had some games left, but we had a pretty good indication of which way they were going. Obviously,
you can't see the bottom 5, but for those who haven't seen it, Ole Miss at 21, Mississippi State at 22, Virginia Tech at 23, DBU at 24. And yes, we ranked a Big Ten team not named Oregon, with Michigan. Had a good weekend. I don't know how long they'll hold it, but we'll give it to them for today.
All right. I'll ask you this. Top 5, you're pretty solidified, I would say.
I mean, I could drop Arkansas if I just really want to be an a-hole.
Yeah, I mean, but we'll let it lay for now.
We didn't need people showing up at my front door.
Right, 6 through 10. I think we're pretty much in agreement.
Florida looked really good, like really, really good.
Yeah. Georgia. I mean, Georgia looked good, and then they didn't look so good.
But I think good all weekend. Trey Phelps.
Well, I mean,
it's just one week. I'm not saying, like, I'm not making a big deal about it, but like, for all the expectations that this entire country had, like, and with his confidence, it was just a surprise. Like, I actually expected him to come out and just, go to town.
Hair on fire, just getting after it. Yeah, I think of 6 through 10, I think Virginia is the one where we could move one way or the other. I don't, if we're looking at this as like lines, 1 through 5 being a line, 6 through 10 being a line, 11 through 15 being a line, I think we could move them down a line. I don't think
funny is we're like the only ones that have South Carolina ranked, and then we have them at 15. Man, I'm a believer in this team. First of all, I like Maneri as a coach. He's my favorite coach all time. Ethan Petrie, and growing up, obviously they lost Messina, but feel really good about the position players that they brought in. He talked to us about that catcher position. Obviously, you're not going to be able to fill that with Messina, but what's his name? I'm also came from third base. It's his roommate. But yeah, anyway, feels good about him behind the dish. Obviously, you talked about SQ. Like, I don't know. I like this South Carolina team.
Yeah, I agree. Big fan of South Carolina. I mean, obviously, you look in that fourth line, Vanderbilt, Louisville. I could see them easily being in or out.
Well, I mean, they beat Texas, who won their other 2 against Oklahoma State and Ole Miss. So I don't know. I felt pretty good about them. I messed up in the original not ranking Virginia Tech. That was on me. They came out and proved the point. Absolutely went to town. Something I didn't bring up when we were on the second line. Oregon set a program record for home runs in a game with 7. So shout out to them.
Yep. Oklahoma State, I think, is another, give or take. I mean,
I could easily take them out of the whole thing and find somebody else to put in if I really want to, but they're fine there for now.
no. The thing is like you can say what you want about anybody's top 25, but like the majority of these teams are going to shuffle a lot, and that 16 through 25 is going to change more than any of the teams.
But what's great is I told you D1. I scanned the comments, and the 3 major complaints about not being in top 25 was South Carolina, Louisville, and Ole Miss. And I said, man, just come on to IOTB because they're in ours.
Yep, all 3. I mean, you get flowers, you get props for Ole Miss. You said it. They were going to be better, and they played really well.
It's crazy because they get run ruled in the other game, but anybody who watched it knows it was literally just 1 inning that the wheels came off. And It's crazy. Riley Maddox strikes out 6 in the first 2 innings. And if you watch the video, like me and George Miller are watching at church, I mean, it wasn't just straight out. Like the movement, he looked real good. It's crazy that it came apart the way it did. But I wouldn't bet on it just happening again. But yeah, and then Hooks, who came in for 2 2/3 after Maddox and Tookian got beat up on, he goes 2 2/3 without allowing a hit. So Ole Miss found another guy out of the bullpen. So I still think there was a lot of good that came out of that game, and I don't think it hurts Maddox to, have that tough outing early. So I'll be there now that my surgery got pushed back to next week. I'll be in Oxford this weekend to watch them against Eastern Kentucky. Get a chance to see it. But I actually listened to D1's Highway to Hoover podcast, and the first team that they addressed was Ole Miss and how good they looked. But my favorite part was they spent a good portion talking about Luke Hill and his emergence. And I talked to Luke all day today, and I told you his maturity level, his focus. Last year, he thought this was a game. It was a joke. He didn't take the SEC seriously. He had some immaturity issues. He told me this year he's locked and loaded. You can even see, like, he wasn't all at the game, the scrimmage games. He didn't have all the chains on. He didn't have his hair dyed, all that crap, right? Goes and hits 2 massive bombs, hits over 500. Daniel, we see this all the time. And sometimes you need to hit the valleys, man, to know what it takes to get to the mountaintop.
I mean, you got to be humbled sometimes. And, the SEC has a funny way of just humbling you to your core. And you either realize quickly, if I'm going to compete at this level, like I've got to look inward and I've got to make changes, because if I don't, like, not only am I going to be in rough shape, but it's going to put my team, who is relying on me, and he's a big piece of that, to have success. So
what I love to see, because we root for all our guests, to see Ole Miss have the success, but then see the pieces that left. You see Andrew Fisher have success at Tennessee. You see Trayson Hughes at Virginia Tech. So to see them all, because for whatever reason, the chemistry just didn't work last year with Ole Miss, but we don't dislike any of the guys because of that. It just is what it is. But to go see them in that first weekend, all have success, all win games, and be a big part of that culture they're at, that's the best thing that could happen.
Oh, definitely. Well, the other big thing is gymnastics. We had basically the Super Bowl of gymnastics. Friday night, you were in attendance, and I'll say this: Oklahoma was not their best, but even if they were at their best, I still think it would have been very close. I'm not going to pontificate on scores and what their very best would have done, because it just would have ratcheted up LSU's performance too. So, but shout out to LSU, defending champs. You're the champ until you're not, and obviously they take care of business. So, being a guy that was there, what was the atmosphere like? What was the crowd, the energy?
Yeah, like I've never been a part of one. Like, I was just in Tuscaloosa the week before, but when we talk about a non-football game, like I would take that over any baseball environment that wasn't Omaha. Absolutely electric, man. They hooked us up with the wristbands with the light show that syncs to the music. Just sell out 13,300 and whatever. Just awesome. But getting into the gymnastics portion, Daniel, one of the simple things, one of the things that could have made a difference is the Oklahoma girls. When we talk about sticky feet, I've not seen that many hops from them ever. Like, and we're talking about the best of the best ones, not just the younger girls. And so it was that precision stuff that we're not used to seeing. Meanwhile, on the other end, you got girls, Sierra Ballard setting the tone on beam was everything. I mean, we've talked about her before. She leads because the expectation for Jay is she's going to get a 9.85 or better. On average, she's only going to get you like a 9.875. She's usually not going to go above that. So for her to get a 9.95 like that, said everything. And then you get to the floor, you have Lincoln come out, set the tone, and then Sierra do it again, followed by Drayton, which could have arguably been a 10. Daniel, you don't even get to their best gymnast, and that's what you're getting. That's usually Oklahoma's, forte. So the other girls stepping up and then Oklahoma not being as precise. But if there's anything I want to talk about, Daniel, usually I want to just talk about in off the bench guests, but I would really love it if she did become one because back-to-back meets in person. You've talked about her prior to that. You said you thought she was the future of gymnastics. I texted you and said she may not be the future. She may be the now because in back-to-back weeks, she was the best gymnast, and the stats don't lie. She won the all-around. Kaylin Chios, man, is another level.
Oh, I mean, you're looking at like when you look at all around, like, and you look at her score in comparison to others, she's ranked 9th. Okay, but you've got people like Grace McCallum, Lily Peterson, Maya Lazan, McKenna Smith, Leanne Wong, Jordan Bowers, Faith Torres, and Jade Carey all in front of her. Like, that's elite company. So as a freshman, when you're in that company, and that's why I say like this girl is special. Like, she is the future, and you're
Well, and
right,
what's
she is the
crazy,
right
Daniel,
now because she was killing it.
well, what's crazy, and by the way, she is the vault leader in all of NCAA now. But what's crazy is they keep giving her the SEC freshman of the week, and I'm like, bro, freshman, give her the SEC gymnast of the week. She's beating the same girls that are winning it every week. But she looked fantastic. And then the other thing I wanted to make a note, and I sent this to Planet of Gymnastics, and they agreed 100%. I commented on Inside Gymnastics post, had like 30 likes. I had a couple people give some pushback. But they were throwing 10s out left and right across the country, and yet these girls still couldn't get one. And it's not even just this week. I've seen so many routines by girls on each side. Like I said, you could have gave Chio, you could have gave Amari Drayton, and then you definitely could have gave Torres or Bowers, on their floors. Like I don't understand. Is it Daniel? Is there really a possibility that they want to keep these teams like? Not that much better because they already are that much better. But like, if they start giving these girls 10s, like it's just they're going to run away with this on the standings.
Maybe, but like when I look at it, do you think it has anything to do with like the television, like meets? Because I feel like when they're highly publicized and highly televised, you don't get 10s. And I only say that because we watched on a week-to-week basis the high profile, except for the Sprouts because that wasn't televised, but like there were no 10s. And I think at this point last year, like we were seeing them. Like,
I mean, let's just go into Oklahoma, Daniel. I mean, there's no one who could look me in a straight face and say, when you look, let's look at the big three: Jordan Bowers, Faith Torres, and Audrey Davis. And the commentators have said it, right? Allie Raisman's been on about it. You can't look at them three and say between their bars, beam, and floor that none of them has got a 10 yet. And we know that they've gotten 10s because what they'll do is give them a 9.975. Yep. And it's crazy. And the Amari Drayton one, by the way, on the LSU note, Daniel. So the one judge gives a 10, and then here we go, just like last year. I forgot what meet it was, but gives a 9.9. I don't even know how you can have a point difference. But either way, they were the best 2 teams. And the note that me and you made, and Charles and Planet Gymnastics, everybody I talked to, Oklahoma still had a better score than anybody else in the country, even in a loss. Their off week was still better than everybody else's week, and that's why they're still number one. Because the reality is, they're just a whole tier above, even making all those mistakes. And Daniel, I don't know that is it. I mean, we're going to get to talk to KJ Kindler like at some point. I think it's probably a good thing as a teaching tool because they didn't lose the last 2 regular seasons.
I would almost like, my thing is I want to ask her, like, what is more, like, when you, like, obviously when you do stuff like that, it almost devalues winning meets. If you know, like, obviously you want to win because like winning is a high indicator of how you perform. But like in this instance, like, you could still lose and still like have these, NQSs that are outrageous. And no, like, let's look at it. All right. Their highest score is a 197.95. All right. Their average score is a 197.736. The next closest is UCLA, and their average is 197.2.
Well, and I think the point is, so like LSU for having 2 198s, they've also had 2 barely scrape 197s,
Right.
whereas Oklahoma, you're not going to have that. Same thing with Florida, right? Like, so I think that's what you love about Oklahoma is that model of consistency. I feel like they are, the only team that's done that. Now, I will say UCLA, as of late, they weren't in the first couple meets, but they've been a model of consistency since. They've clearly, found their footing. And, at first everybody was just talking about their floor routines, but you even said from our guest, Shay Campbell, like their vault is top notch too. So they're definitely coming on strong. Like when I look at this, we've talked about Oklahoma and LSU, we think are the lock too. I still feel like Cal could be that team, but I think you could make a case for UCLA just as much as you can Utah or Florida, which we weren't doing early. When we talk about Fort Worth and we talk about those 2 semifinals, I think it's going to be more interesting than we thought it was going to be because it felt like we knew the 4. Now I feel like there's a legitimate, 7, include Michigan State as the standing show that could really make that Final 4.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when that national qualifying score is just such a beast, and like when you look at the difference, I mean, 197 is where you have to be, and you really need in mid to high 197s to be at the top. But like you look at the top 7, Michigan State, Cal, Florida, Utah, LSU, UCLA, Oklahoma, they are all 197 or above. Missouri is at 8, and they're at a 196.9. And like everyone else is below them. Like, to me, we've talked about this, those in our opinion are the 7 big ones.
But where you're at in that seating matters, because when you go to those regionals,
definitely.
then how it sets you up in the semifinals, because the last thing you want to do is be stuck in a semifinal match with Oklahoma and LSU. Somebody that's going to happen to, and you're going to have to be your best that day, or regardless. You could be the 3rd best and maybe been better than the other 4, but it's not going to matter because it's going to be how you line up and who you got to face. We talk about with Omaha too, right? And so you definitely don't want to be caught in the lower, 5, 6, 7, 8 and get stuck with those 2.
True. Absolutely.
But I think gymnastics, we talked about this as worth being said again. I don't think it could be in a better place. And the amount of people, Daniel, who've said to me, whether I was at LSU, at Alabama, on social media, tell me that they only used to watch the Olympics and now watch college gymnastics, is the kind of feedback I like to hear, because it tells me people are realizing, hey, the same stuff that we see every 4 years, we can see now at the collegiate level. But the difference is you can also see a packed out 13,000 crowd all into it, fan bases, college, the music, the work. So like, I think it is a growing sport better than ever. And I think these, top 8 right here are the reason why.
Absolutely. And here's the one thing that I'll say is I think what makes this better is that the platforms, I mean, I'm going to pump us up a little bit. We're providing a platform, and we're not the only one by any means, but we're providing a platform for stories and people to connect and understand who is on these teams. And that matters. When people know who's on a team, like that matters. And yes, you have some Jordan Childs, you have Jade Carey's out there, like Leanne Wongs, you have those Olympians that are out there, but the majority of the athletes are not Olympians. And so, like, you look at a team like Oklahoma who has 0 Olympians, and like that, like, and that those are household names now. Like, I think that's the difference in where we're at and why gymnastics is just going to rise, because more and more of these players and these girls are going to be noticed and recognized, and people are going to know them by name, and not, I think it maybe not so much like Olympics, but I think on a day-to-day basis, people are going to know more about the college sport than they will the
Yeah.
Olympic sport.
And I was looking at what's coming up, man. When you talk about meets that are going to move the needle, so you got Georgia at Missouri. I think Georgia's right there, like at 10 or 11. Obviously, Missouri sitting there at 8. You got Auburn at Alabama. So you got the in-state rivalry, 2 teams that are really needing to prove themselves. They're right outside the top 10.
That could be, I mean, that's huge for Alabama, because Alabama's sitting at 17, Auburn is at 11. Like a good performance by Alabama could catapult them in a much better position than where they're at today.
Yeah, and then the headliner is clearly Florida at Utah, or what did I say? Florida at Utah, Florida at Oklahoma. So you got number 5 against number 1. Florida is looking to prove that they can compete with Oklahoma. Obviously, being at Oklahoma is going to be tough. The reason I said Utah, Denver has a chance to prove themselves. A meet that if I could pick any other meet to watch other than Florida, Oklahoma, Denver looked really good last week. Can they put 2 good meets back together? Obviously, at Utah is going to be tough. Let's see. I think there was one other big one. I have to see what it is. All these ones. Let's see. Oh, and Oklahoma has a meet again on Monday. So they got, or excuse me, Sunday. They got 2 in 3 days. I think that's awesome, Daniel, because I think on that Sunday meet, we're going to see a lot of those freshmen who haven't got a lot of time, because we know they try to protect these gymnasts as much as you want to win every meet, and they can win it with the freshmen, right? But you don't want these girls having to compete, do all those hard landings twice, in a 3-day span. So I think this is an opportunity to, see Lizzie Blessy or Kelsey Slade or some of these other girls get in some of these routines. So I'm all about seeing that.
For sure. Most impressive and most disappointing this weekend.
I
mean, you got to go LSU, right? Most impressive.
Yeah, LSU was definitely the most impressive. I was trying to think disappointing. Honestly, I think I'm going to go just because of our guests, right? Washington had a chance. We had guest on guest because they were going against Maryland, a team that, right outside the top 25. They were inside the top 25. Maybe have a chance to get that Big Ten win, prove that they are getting better, and, literally lay down on 194.8 or whatever. And it's like, I mean, what happened? Because you were making progress. You were pushing 196s, high 195s, and then you laid a dud. It's like their 3rd time they've gotten the 194s. And I don't know. I was seeing improvement, so I hate to see them take a step back.
Yeah. It's when you're talking about percentage, like not even like tenths of points, like it's so difficult to put like who is the most disappointing, because I mean, it could really come down to someone having really good landings and someone not. And like we saw
If you
that
don't know who was
Oklahoma
most
and LSU.
impressive outside of the teams and not using off the bench, yes, that I like watching, that we need to get on. Maya Hooten from Minnesota is fantastic, and she's been on a roll.
Yep. I mean, I think she's one. I mean,
In
obviously,
UCLA, we didn't talk about it as much. We obviously talk about Shea, and everybody talks about Jordan Childs, but Brooklyn Moores, Emily Malabayu, Emily Lee, all those girls. Like, I mean, UCLA's got depth.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at their all around, Shea is the best that they have. I mean, even
And she wasn't
with
getting any of
Jordan
the hype for whatever reason coming into the season. And I understand Jordan was there, but even the other girls that I'm talking about, it felt like she wasn't being talked about. And she did start slow, which didn't help. But man, because she was killing it on the floor the whole time. But like I was bringing up the vault, and then everything else just kind of is that one of those things, Daniel? We're not gymnasts, but I feel like they may have that specialist mentality where she's going to kill the floor, but is it one of those things once like that vault improved and then it's just like everything kind of fell together because it wasn't just floor anymore?
Yeah, the way I equate it to is like as a pitcher, like you might have one pitch that you've been working on and it's like your weakest of your pitches, and then all of a sudden you figure it out. Like now, like your confidence is so much higher because you're
Well,
like,
the reason
now
I
all
thought
my
about it
pitches.
was because Gabby's like that. Like Gabby's nailed her floor every single week, but when her vault's been good, it feels like everything's just better. And they lead off, especially a lot of times when they're leading off at the vault at home. If you can nail that vault that starts the night, feels like it just makes everything better, which, shout out to her teammate, obviously getting the 10. And I saw that routine the week before. So, and it I think was like a 9.875. So to come back a week later and on the road and get a 10, that's big time. And I met her parents. So that's pretty cool. Lily Hudson needs to come on this podcast just because I met the parents and they liked what I was talking about. So hopefully Gabby says she's gonna reach out, but host she ain't feeling herself too much. She got the 10, so I'm too big.
I mean, yeah, she might be like, no, I'm good.
Speaking of Maya Hooten, this jabroni came on Planet of Gymnastics post, and he was like, I had commented on the thing. I said I need to get her on the show. He said good luck, and I said why do you say that? He said I've tried twice, and so I was like, well, I'll shoot my shot or whatever. And like he was comparing us, and I looked at his stuff, and I was like, bro, we are not the same. Stop.
All right, man. Last call. What you got? Around the horn. Anything you want to throw out there, talk about?
Yeah, I mentioned, the surgery and things getting thrown off. I'm obviously going to go to Ole Miss. That means I'm not going to get to go to Houston, which is going to have Tennessee, Texas A&M, and Mississippi State. So pretty disappointed about that. But where I wanted to go with that is the relationships with the families, right? Like having them message me and say, hey, just worry about getting better. We'll see you in Knoxville, or we'll see you in College Station. I just want to shout out to these parents. I talked, we talk about the athletes and talk to them. Man, a lot of these athletes are good people because they got good parents. And so, I just, they're at all the games. A lot of them, I've seen a lot of posts, a lot of them go for broke, man. People don't realize that. Like these parents, they're missing time at work, right? But then they're spending all this money. It's not like the schools pay for that. And there's something to be said about a parent that will just lay it all on the line to support their kid. And then, be nice to guys like this along the way. So that would be my around the horn final note, man. Shout out to the parents of these guys and girls.
Yeah. So I got two. All right. First thing, shout out to Rafael Devers. All right. Red Sox bring in Alex Bregman. Rafael just, no big deal. He's like, nah, bro, third base is mine. I ain't moving, and he ain't gonna play it. So y'all can figure that out. But here's what I know. Like, that's the shit I like to hear. Like, all right, you're gonna bring somebody in, play my spot? Okay. Like, because I mean, you could definitely go out that a few different ways, but I mean, the reality is we know what Bregman signed for, 3-year, 120 mil. Like, that's gonna play third base, Rafael. So just know that. There's not much.
Who recently came on and said that's why they like college baseball over pro? Somebody specifically said that you get paid and you're going to play a position, but I like competing and knowing that whoever worked the hardest and earned it is going to get it. One of our guests recently talked about that.
Yeah, I can't remember. But yeah, I like that fire. I like that competition, especially getting ready to go into spring training. Those dudes are in Fort Myers getting ready to bang it out and see battle for third base at the Red Sox, man. Let's go. Second thing, hey man, shout out to you putting together a little video collab of my girl at her gymnastics competition. She was pumped to do it. She was ready to do it. And I'll say this, like, I don't get nervous for her for a lot of things, but for whatever reason, I wanted her just to have success. She didn't necessarily have to do the best. She could have fallen off the beam, but I just wanted her to have success so that she was, have some momentum and know that she could do it. And I'll tell you this, dude. And this is a parent flaw that I think a lot of people have is your kid will rise up. And my kid, for whatever reason, she rises up. And I love that about her. No matter what's put in front of her, she rises up. So
she did fantastic. And you made me think you weren't going to get footage. You got amazing footage. Loved putting the video together for you, but even more so, man, we've told so many of these girls that came on that you had a little gymnast that was coming up, and I sent it to all of them, and I think every single one of them responded back with great comments and just talking about that's where it starts, or they miss those days, or they love it because you're at a stage where it is more fun and learning, and it's not all the pressure. So you as a dad or her as a little gymnast, man, just enjoy that time because there'll be days where you don't get to relax and enjoy it as much like that. But shout out to her and shout out to you, man. Being there and being for her, and hey, man, look forward to the journey as we continue. Maybe one day down the road, she's in one of these schools we see.
God, I mean,
you got a long way, man. You can breathe.
I can only hope, and I hope she can get it paid for, and a lot of NIL to go with.
Bro, I got an email during this episode about the apartment that Taylor applied for, so make sure she gets it paid for, bro.
That's crazy. All right, man, let's get out of here. I want to thank our guest, Ethan Conrad, for joining us. If you like hearing Ethan's story or you just like hearing us average Joes talk X's and O's, please share the podcast on Facebook. Go over to YouTube, hit like, hit subscribe, hit notifications. That way you're one of the first to get notified when we upload new content, because every day new content's flowing through there, man. Jim, this was a good start to the week. What do we got in store for the rest of the week?
What's funny is I didn't book an episode for tomorrow because I thought I was going to be having surgery. So we don't got nothing tomorrow, and I don't have surgery. But Wednesday, we got Dalen Thompson. Thursday, which is why I put that there because I wasn't Tuesday. But Sarah Seville from Maryland. Obviously, I just talked about them, handling Washington. So we'll be able to talk to her. But I'm really excited Monday, man. Cade Arambidi from LSU. He got 50% of the share on catcher where they were going, mixed in. Looked really good at the plate, looked really good behind the plate. I'm excited for him as a freshman at LSU. Talk to him, recap the weekend with him. He's excited, and I'm excited to talk to him. And then, we're going to do Oklahoma again. We'll have Ava Siegfeld, and then from there, man, it's Tennessee, Texas A&M, Tennessee, Texas A&M. And we're going to be talking to two of the three best teams in college baseball, so I look forward to it.
Loaded up. Week 2 of college baseball is upon us. You got more college gymnastics coming at you. Big matchups, big games, the whole nine. Spring training
I'll lay out
around the corner. The whole thing.
I'll lay out Wednesday. I'll lay out some pick'em for me and you to do after the guest. Get these weekend matchups. See what we got, because if I'm not mistaken, there's a few good ones on the schedule.
Oh, definitely. But all right, man, let's get out of here. This has been the In Off the Bench podcast. As always, remember, strong body, sharp minds, grit and grind all the time. We are out.